Welcome to the Open Museum 2022 conference. My name is Mary Peterson, and I am the coordinator. And I would like to welcome you here to TOUR A PLOMB, this very lovely venue. I would also like to extend a special welcome to our guests here in person and online. We have quite a few people who are following us online. There's some people who are also, we have Finland, Norway, France, and we also have people in the United States. I was surprised to see there were some people in Korea and Malaysia who are also following the conference, which I think is pretty great that we're having more of a global outreach on this topic. It really makes me think about how impactful this topic can be for people. I'm a little nervous. So this year's theme is human-centered design. As museums are places that gather cultural heritage and knowledge, I wanted to take a day, really, to reiterate why we have these institutions. And in the end, it's always about the people who work there, the people who visit, the people who made the objects that we're seeing. There's really so much humanity in these spaces. And because the topic of today and of Open Museum is inclusion, I think it's a good place for us to start. Let's see. So today we're going to have a series of presentations. I'm going to present to you first what is Open Museum, and then a little bit about what we do. And then we're going to have some of our guests come on and talk about some inclusive practices that they use in their institutions. I will be presenting as well the recommendations that we've come up with, which I'll explain in a little bit, with our think tank. And those are going to be on the topics of personnel, publics, and partnerships. And I really hope you can learn some interesting things today, have some new ideas that inspire you. Just have a discussion about it. And then we will be having a lunch break at 11:30 downstairs. It's a little early, I know, but it makes a good rhythm for the day. And that will be presented by La Forna, and I think it's going to be very delicious. And then we will start presentations again at 1. Okay. So I'm going to do my presentation on Open Museum in French. And the reason I'm saying that is because we are having simultaneous translations done for people who are following online, and we also have headsets here in the audience, but mainly I want to give a heads up to the translators that I'm going to be switching languages. Okay. So, Open Museum est un projet de Brussels Museum. C'est une fédération de plus de 120 musées bruxellois. Le projet existe depuis 2 ans et c'était créé par Gladys, ici, qui va nous joindre un peu plus tard. Le but de ce projet, c'est de rendre les musées plus diversifiés, plus inclusifs et plus accessibles. L'ambition est d'apporter un soutien aux musées bruxellois dans leur parcours de devenir des espaces plus inclusifs, représentant mieux les habitants et habitantes de notre belle ville. Les idées d'inclusion, de diversité, d'accessibilité sont tous basées sur une idée simple. Arrêter l'exclusion. Ici, Open Museum, on peut voir qu'Open Museum s'est tourné en 2 axes. C'est un peu difficile à voir, j'avoue, avec le contraste. Mais on a l'axe externe et l'axe interne. Le travail interne se focalise autour de notre propre plan de diversité qui se trouve en ligne sur notre site. Et c'est quelque chose qu'on a développé avec Acteris. Il s'agit d'un travail d'élargir nos perspectives avec des formations d'un côté et de l'autre côté, dans notre recherche de nouveaux collègues, de bénévoles, de stagiaires. Pardon, j'ai beaucoup pratiqué, donc j'ai un peu mal à la gorge. Voilà, donc je disais que c'est aussi d'élargir notre offre d'emploi pour les collègues, les bénévoles, les stagiaires, pour le tout. Et afin de mieux refléter la ville de Bruxelles, nous cherchons à mettre en avant les personnes issues du parcours de migration, comme moi par exemple, et des personnes qui n'ont pas de diplôme universitaire. Nous avons aussi élargi nos réseaux de diffusion de ces offres pour toucher un plus grand public. C'est évidemment un travail sur le long terme et les formations vont continuer. On a déjà eu, par exemple, quelques parcours sur l'histoire des femmes ici à Bruxelles, les béguinages avec l'architecture qui dégenre. Et aussi, on a eu un parcours d'histoire LGBTQIA+, avec TOUR sur l'histoire LGBTQ+, ici à Bruxelles aussi. Et dans l'avenir, on va continuer avec des formations de notre équipe pour savoir un peu plus la situation des personnes aveugles en faisant des tours guidés avec éclat. Ok. J'ai un peu du mal avec quelques mots. Ok, et ici, vous voyez le côté externe un peu plus. Donc, moi, j'assiste sur quelques comités d'accompagnement, par exemple pour le Heritage Days, où il y avait une étude sur les fresques dans le centre de ville avec le Brussels Study Institute, où je donne mon avis et j'essaie d'élargir la perspective. Nous avons aussi un site où je publie régulièrement des différentes activités liées aux idées d'inclusion et aussi des ressources, qui veut dire les associations qui luttent contre les discriminations, surtout, mais aussi juste à qui les musées peuvent aller pour avoir avis ou des partenariats éventuels. Et je collabore aussi avec Museum Night Fever et Nocturne, qui sont, j'avoue, partie de notre association, donc c'est un peu interne-externe, mais je l'avais mis ici parce qu'avec ces deux projets et Open Museum, on essaie de toucher le public au sens plus large. Donc, pour moi, c'est un axe plutôt vers le public. Après tout, la culture appartient à nous tous et à nous toutes. Et c'est avec les activités-ci qu'on peut attirer de nouvelles personnes dans les musées. You can go back one. Ici, nous avons la partie externe avec les musées, à qui on donne aussi, ou on offre plutôt les formations. Par exemple, on avait des formations sur l'écriture inclusive. Après nous-mêmes avoir créé une charte d'écriture inclusive qu'on met en place en ce moment. Et on a eu aussi pour les musées des formations sur les identités trans et intersexuation par Jean Pluriel, pour que les personnels des musées puissent commencer à avoir des discussions autour de ces sujets et être un peu plus informés de ce qu'il y a dans les publics qui les fréquentent. Un de nos buts principaux est la création d'une charte d'inclusion pour le secteur muséal, une convention qui reprendra les points les plus importants. Et pour faire ceci, je travaille avec un think tank d'experts et d'expertes sur les luttes contre les discriminations. Avec le think tank et l'aide de Yamina El Atlassi, Gladys a développé 5 axes de réflexion sur lesquels je travaille maintenant avec le think tank. Pour chacun de ces axes, j'ai une réunion avec le think tank et une autre avec les musées participants, afin de connaître les défis actuels et les solutions possibles dans les musées quand il s'agit de l'inclusion, l'accessibilité et la diversité. C'est à base de ces réunions que je formule des recommandations qui seront présentées aujourd'hui. D'habitude, il y avait moi et mes 2 collègues qui présenteraient ces recommandations. Malheureusement, Emma, elle est tombée malade avec le Covid, donc elle ne peut pas faire la présentation qui est censée être en néerlandais, donc tu m'excuses pour les néerlandophones. Donc, nous avons discuté de ces 3 premières P déjà dans les réunions. Donc, le personnel, les partenariats et les publics. Et ça que vous allez entendre parler aujourd'hui. Ce partenariat est très important pour moi parce que le think tank présente des recommandations nuancées, pratiques et très empathiques. Notre partenariat est en évolution constante pour mieux répondre aux désirs et aux besoins de ses participants et participantes. Donc, les recommandations seront bientôt publiées, mais en ce moment, on prend un peu de temps pour bien réfléchir sur la structure de ces publications et sur les vraies recommandations qui seront y présentées. Et pour moi, c'est une bonne moment parce que ces recommandations, ces sujets méritent le temps de réflexion. Je vais continuer à travailler avec le think tank sur les 2 P qui restent, donc la programmation et place. Et pour place, ça veut dire le lieu physique et le lieu digital dans un musée. Et après qu'on a terminé ces discussions, on va créer la charte d'inclusion pour nos musées membres ici à Bruxelles pour montrer qu'ils font un effort pour travailler sur l'inclusion dans ces institutions publiques. Okay. Et est-ce qu'on peut juste applaudir un peu le think tank parce que le travail qu'ils font, c'est incroyable. Chez Open Museum, on va aussi continuer à lutter contre des discriminations encore très présentes dans notre culture actuelle. Les recommandations d'aujourd'hui ne seront qu'en début à cette discussion et j'aimerais dans l'avenir avoir des sessions de discussion avec les musées et les experts et expertes sur ces mêmes sujets, mais aller plus profonde et plus en détail dans cette discussion. Alors, préparons-nous, parce que l'objectif d'aujourd'hui est de mettre l'humanité au centre de nos processus. Cela signifie écouter ce que les gens ressentent en entrant dans des espaces conçus pour seulement quelques personnes. Cela signifie être introspectif et introspective et réfléchir aux préjugés inconscients qui nous freinent. Cela signifie également de l'espoir. Parce que tout le monde ici sait qu'il y a un changement qui est en train de se produire. Nous n'avons pas encore besoin d'être d'accord sur la manière qu'on aborde ces changements, mais nous pouvons nous consoler en sachant que nous faisons partie de nombreuses personnes qui essaient activement de construire le monde de demain. Je propose que je parle ici avec Gladys, qui a fondé Open Museum.
Tant mieux que j'aime l'improvisation. Moi, j'ai un micro aussi ou...
Oui, tu as un micro. Voilà. Mais on va switcher en anglais pour les traductions.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for joining me today, Gladys.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here, also online.
Yes. So Gladys and I were discussing, I was showing her some of the presentations that I was creating from these wonderful discussions I've been having with the think tank. And I just wanted to give her a moment to talk about how she felt about Open Museum and where she's going and what she feels like now that it's no longer in your present, but in your past, even if it's still actively in this moment, a part of your present.
Very much so.
So my first question for you is, how did you come up with the idea of Open Museum?
First of all, it was not my idea. It was more a response to, I think, a need that came from museums. I remember a working group somewhere in 2019 where we were thinking about the future and what 2020 and 21 were going to hold. Yes. And it was very clear that diversity and inclusion was very high on the agenda, but that we didn't necessarily know how to approach the topic. And so I started diving in and really try to look at it in a sense of like, how can we unite to become more inclusive? And sometimes what can unite people is fighting against something. Not that I'm into aggression or anything like that, but I really took it up as like, what is something very toxic in our society, and for me that is definitely structural discrimination, and how can all museums gang up and fight against that. So that's kind of how it started, and I tried to be as intersectional as possible in my approach.
As we must be. And so my second question for you, thank you for this. When you designed this project with this idea of creating change in the sector, why is it that you chose to have this approach that's both internal and external?
Yeah. I mean, simple answer is I was extremely afraid of diversity washing, which still happens a lot, and I think no one is completely immune to when you have like very rigid institutions. But like the simple answer is, I don't really think you can position yourself as an organization that is open-minded and forward-thinking if you can't even talk about these topics around the coffee table with your colleagues. So, and as with every external change, it starts from within. You also mentioned introspection earlier. That's, I think, my key word. It's not being afraid to question yourself, to question what you find normal, and to deconstruct that and find comfort in feeling uncomfortable about certain topics and see that as learning experiences. So that's why I was like, let's start from within, and then let's inspire our museums, also be inspired by them, because it's definitely a two-way street. Also realize that a lot of museums were doing their own thing in their corner without necessarily knowing it of one another, so yeah.
Bringing that together.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. It is funny. Sometimes I think there's, I personally have been trying to deconstruct a lot of things in my life for a very long time. And it started first with sexism, because I'm a woman and I grew up in the United States, and it's very apparent. But what I find is really, it's embarrassing, but it's also really important, I think, that we talk about it. So I would confront men in my life and be like, okay, hey, did you know that that was actually sexist? And it made me very uncomfortable, and I didn't appreciate it. And they would get all flustered and not know how to respond. And then I started talking to people about race, and I was often in that position of, oh God, what have I done? I need a minute to think about this. But it's really these reactions that I think are so important, this introspection, to be humble and to think, okay, maybe I made a misstep there. Someone's telling me I made a misstep. So what did I do? How can I be better? I think that's really the most important part.
For me, it's really a focus on the process. I don't think I do not believe that the inclusive museum exists. It does not exist, because also what you consider a safe space, for instance, is also very different depending on the position you have in society. However, for me, with something like Open Museum, the worth of it is really to be found in the process. It's in the talking, it's in learning new things, readjusting, and just doing that constantly. But it is a lifelong process that I don't think will ever get to an end point.
I hope not.
No.
Because it's always important to reevaluate.
That being said, Open Museum I never really saw as a project that necessarily needs to like stand by itself for the rest of its life. It's really about how do you infuse it in every single practice and every single new project you set up within your organization. But I do think we need to be like very loud and outspoken about it right now.
I know that for me, this whole idea of the human-centered design really comes from this place of this discussion. Like, inclusion work is uncomfortable. It is about thinking about our values and living by our values. And that is a hard thing to do. And when we approach this topic, one of the things I hear from people is, oh, but you know, it's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna take a lot of money. I don't have those things. I'm already full of activities that I'm doing here at work. I don't have time to take this on. And I respect that. I hear that. I understand why that's the response, because we are so busy with our lives already. But I really look at inclusion work as a skill. It's a skill that you learn. At first, like with any skill, when you start practicing, it's really hard. And sometimes embarrassing if you can't, I don't know, throw a ball correctly. But with time, this mountain that was in front of you slowly goes behind you, and it becomes easier and easier for you to practice these methods, these ideas of inclusion as part of your second nature. You don't have to think about it. So today we're gonna talk about it. Yes. Did we resolve the video issue? Yes?
Could I maybe, before we show the video, I would really like to thank Mary, because I put, I think, 2 years of my life, a lot of energy, a lot of tears, so I'm going to be honest. My God, did I cry over this project. But I built some tracks, and I don't think I could have asked for a better train conductor to put a train toot-toot on that track, and it's been wonderful to see Open Museum evolve. So thank you.
Thank you.
Applause for Mary.
Okay, so let's see if we can get this video back into action.
Problems or opportunities? How about both? It's a fact that the relative cost of retrofitting a product or service to become inclusive increases over time, and it can reach up to 10,000 times the cost of making it inclusive from the start. It's a fact that executive teams with more than 30% women are more likely to outperform those with fewer or no women. And it's a fact that about £2 billion is lost every month by businesses only catering to normal people. Normal people. Every decision that's made for your company, your workplace, employees, customers, stakeholders, investors, has the potential to include or exclude. By taking people's capabilities, needs, aspirations, beliefs, and realities into account, you'll create experiences, innovations, relationships, and connections that reflect the world in which you work and the communities that you serve, adapting as you go. Make no mistake, this is a long journey, guiding how your business works, leads, and behaves. And it's only just starting for some. But when progress ignites, it's shared. You see, different is normal. Everyone should feel like they belong. By recognizing that, innovating for that, measuring for that, by confronting and responding to the needs of society, you step closer to making the Sustainable Development Goals a reality. And you'll grow your business for the better. This is about a future where everyone counts. It's about being humanity-centered, innovating for the planet, and every human on it. It's an opportunity to put diversity and inclusion at the heart of everything you do. An opportunity that your business depends on. If you don't do this, you'll be left behind. So how do you ensure you're a part of that future? The answer is in our name.
Design it. Okay, well, what I really liked about this video is that it really goes into why it's important that we start from an inclusive space. At the beginning, they talk about some numbers, but how much it costs to retrofit your institutions, your businesses, with inclusive solutions. But if we build from this place, it's much easier to just keep going with it. Et voilà. We're going to start on our first recommendations from the think tank, but I would like to applaud Gladys, because I forgot that.